It was a bit crazy, that one. Yeah. There's a sign, that one, somewhere.
Yeah. Broken bones and Basildon.
Yeah. Buggered in Basildon. Yeah, I think that's the one. Yeah.
Buggered in Basildon.
All right, we're live.
Hi. Yeah.
Woo.
All right, I'm here with The Tangent. Got Andy, Jonas, Luke, and Steve. And later on, Theo's by.
Theo's going to join us. Yeah.
I'm still getting a kick out of your name there, head of PR.
That's because I actually seem to have logged into Zoom using somebody else's account, and in fact, I think it's Inside Out Records as publicity department. I've accidentally logged in as them, so
That's okay.
Drinks all round.
Yeah, no idea. So the last lot of interviews I did. Go ahead.
So if we don't have we don't have any views on this broadcast, we know who to blame.
Yeah. Head of PR, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I spoke with Andy about, that was in November. No, a little bit before November last year. And then I was booking all these people, and I was like, wait a second, I want to try to get the whole band, and since Andy's wasn't technically live, it was a recorded thing. So I thought, let's do a live one. So
Well, you've done it.
Yeah.
And this is it's really good, actually. One of the things that's been obviously, if you look back at the whole history of the Tangent, which goes back as far as 2002, we started off as being a band who were always changing lineups, a bit like King Crimson or Yes or something. And of course, people still think that's the case, but actually, this lineup that we've got sitting in front of you, to all intents and purposes, although Steve wasn't with us at that point, it goes back to 2014, which is like 7 years ago. And in the past 7 years, all the records that the Tangent have made have had Luke Machin, me, Jonas Reingold, Theo Travis on, and the last two have had Steve on as well. And we've done 2 tours with that lineup, under the Tangecanic banner, and essentially, we are we've been a stable lineup of people who genuinely enjoy music together since that time. Getting something like this back in the early days would have been quite difficult. Because we wondered who actually is in the band this week. But now we know. It's kind of good.
Yeah, it's kind of nice when you get a solid lineup, especially for the fans, so they know, who's in it. They go.
Somebody else can speak. I don't have to be. I don't have to be sort of leader or anything like that. It's just anybody in. Sorry, I know I'm head of PR, but that's just the name.
Still can't see the link for the. Oh, hang on. I think it's just come up now. Oh, there we are. I better turn this.
Somebody else can speak. I
got it.
All right. I suddenly heard myself coming through. Then isn't this weird? So for everybody watching, whilst everybody else thinks of something to say, I'm in England, in Northern England, Yorkshire, of course. Ron, who's sitting there, he's in the state of Maine in Northern America, the USA. Luke is in the West Country of England, near the town of Bath. Stephen is in Wales, near Cardiff, and Jonas is near Vienna in Austria. So this is another miracle of technology. And of course, you know, it's one of the things that was really important about the Tangent in the first place, because you know, we first started off when the internet was very young, making records together across oceans, really, and sending each other hard disks and stuff. So, you know, this is very much in the spirit of that, Ron.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I've been basically following you guys ever since first album when it came out. You know, I heard about that. I believe it's I forget what publication I saw it in, that, you know, because it was coming off of Andy's old band, Parallel or 90 Degrees, because he used to send me a couple of his CDs to review. And so when he said he got a new band, I was like, oh, that'll be cool. I'll see where, you know, kind of I like that it was a complete different band, you know, because sometimes people make bands and they kind of sound like their previous band, and it's like it doesn't have their own identity. And the Tangent and Parallel or 90 Degrees have two different identities. So you couldn't say one sounded like the other. The only, you know, common denominator is Andy.
Yeah.
So
Well, if I could come back on that, I mean, like, to go back to those very early days. I mean, at the time, I was very much interested in the music of Stephen Wilson at the time. Of course, that being Porcupine Tree, and a lot of the other projects he was involved with. And one thing I did notice about them, and I had no complaint about it, because I actually really did like the stuff he was doing, that, you know, it was usually, if Stephen Wilson was involved in it, it sounded like something Stephen Wilson was involved. And, you know, whatever it was, it had that kind of, you know, this is Stephen Wilson again. And at the time we were doing PO90, which in a way also sounded a little bit like that, you know, I thought, well, I'd like to do something that's more in the kind of the prog rock vein, because I'd been listening to Jonas's band, the Flower Kings, of course, and I'd seen them live and thought, no, I'd like to do something a bit more like that. So started off, and of course the Tangent didn't sound like PO90 at all at the time. Since then, the Tangent's, you know, gone back and used a few ideas from PO90, yeah, sure, but you know, I think it was a very important thing to try and make a difference between the two. And of course, you know, has to be said that, you know, whether I wanted it to or not, the Tangent became a lot more popular than PO90 had ever been. So, you know, I was able to work with these absolutely top flight musicians, Jonas and Royner, and Jaime Salazar and Zoltan Surs and David Jackson and Theo. You know, it was suddenly a whole new world. It was like as if I'd been driving a really good quality, you know, a Ford Mondeo or something, and suddenly I had a Lamborghini I could drive in. Wow, that was an amazing experience. So, you know, and I'm still in the Lamborghini. That's a kind of compliment, guys.
Yeah. Very old one.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Still expensive, you know.
Clapped out one. No.
Yeah.
Ready for the bill.
I had someone just said that you guys totally rock Progstock.
We totally locked. Oh, Progstock. Yeah, okay.
Progstock,
That's very
yeah.
nice of you to say. Yeah, we were all there for that one. Yeah, that was a great night. Francis Dunnery was there. Rachel Flowers was there, wasn't she?
Yeah, he was.
Great night. Great
Yeah,
night.
fantastic night. Yeah.
Yeah, Peter Jones, and what a great festival that was. And yeah, I remember we had a really nice meal afterwards in this bizarre kind of pub place. Does anybody remember that? It was a very unusual meal, but it was great. Yeah. I was trying to be a vegetarian in America at the time, Ron. It was a bit difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's expensive too.
What, being a vegetarian?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be a bit pricey over here as well. But we had a great time over there. It was God. As I say, we're talking about that was the last time we saw each other when we were there. We were just saying that before we started this interview, weren't we? That America was the last time all 4 people who were on the screen, right? Or 5 people on the screen now were together. It's it's sad to think of it that way, but we will see each other again. We are sure.
Oh,
You know, when
we
you
could-
were wandering around Jersey, and you obviously wrote Jinxed in Jersey and stuff, and you're having that mad, wonderful time. Steve, can you remember what we were watching in the hotel room at that time?
Oh God.
Naked and Afraid.
Oh yeah.
That bloody program. Andy was having this like magical time on the streets of Jersey. We were watching Naked and Afraid.
With some
It's all-
IPA, I think, maybe, or was it just wine? I can't remember.
and Jonas was riding his bike somewhere.
No,
Probably
probably.
swimming.
I think I was more leaning towards the adult channel of that television and doing that. It was an off day that I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I remember some incidents involving the hotel's swimming pool, which were very good. Oh dear, that was.
Did it
I mean,
involve Rum as well, or something like that?
did it what?
I got an odd question from the chat room. It says from a guy named Carlos. He goes, Jonas, when you ride your bike, do you also play bass?
I could, but nobody gives me money for that, so therefore I don't. So I'm actually have fun riding the bike.
What do you think? Shove them in the spokes. Fine, eh?
So,
Then, yeah, unfortunately, guys, I never seen you live, so I'm hoping maybe in the near future when everything gets out of this lockdown thing mode, see you guys somewhere on the East Coast here of America. Hopefully somewhere up closer to Maine, but not likely because it seems like I'm in a wasteland. We don't have, the only bands that seem to play in Maine are I call them the greatest hits bands that are just playing their hit songs, country bands, and rap bands. Nothing else.
but
Don't
I
have-
think it's a financial matter actually, because of course everybody would like to go to every single state in America when you're doing a tour there, but if 12 people show up in Maine, it's great for those 12 people if we are having a good night, of course, but it's not so great for the band
Of course.
wallet at the end of the day. So European bands tend to lean towards like New York area, the New York State, maybe Pennsylvania, California, those places, like up in Chicago, Michigan. It's hard to tour America if you're not having like a top 10 in the building.
Oh yeah, because it's so big, and I think the closest thing any prog band has ever gotten to is in the Boston area.
Yeah,
It's about
I think we
4 hours.
Did we play in Boston with the Tangent? This Tangent Canic? Yeah, we were supposed to play.
We were, weren't we? Yes, we were
Yeah.
supposed to play Boston, and that got cancelled, and Detroit got cancelled whilst we were there, if you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
that wasn't it.
No, I played Boston area quite sometimes, but yeah, that's as far
North.
actually. Then normally after Boston, we heading west and doing maybe Canada and those
Right.
Buffalo, maybe something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we-
You know, I'm originally from California, so I remember all the prog fests and
Yeah,
that they had there, and then down in Baja California for Baja Prog.
yeah. Yeah, we
And,
played there with the Flower Kings. I remember, like 2003, maybe 4, something like that.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think. I seem to remember there's a bootleg, well, an official bootleg of the Flower Kings playing in California somewhere. It's a good one actually. Can't remember. I think it's probably before you joined actually, Jonas.
Yeah,
There's one.
and it's 97. I know the band was there in 97.
Yeah, it was. The Tangent's never been as far as California. I mean, essentially, our American activity has been pretty small, really. We don't tour as much as, say, the Flower Kings or the Wilson Band or anything like that. We've played in Philadelphia. We've done a
Crossfest a few times.
yeah. We've played Brosfest. We've done Milwaukee, haven't we? We've done Chicago, New Jersey a couple of times, and we've been up to Canada and played in Quebec. So yeah, at the Terra Incognita Festival. But you know, that's it really. And the last time we came, you just elected this gentleman called Mr. Trump to the White House, and he wasn't making it easy for us to get in, and we had to have this really weird lawyer, and his name's gone out of my head. How can I have forgotten that name? But Jonas will remember it. I'm fairly certain. Yeah.
It will come. You know, it will come.
It was this guy, and this guy and his name were part of our lives because we were on tour around Europe, and Jonas and his missus, Christine, and my missus, Sally, were having to do all this stuff behind the scenes to get us into America when we got back from Europe. And it was absolutely crazy. I think that before we even got on the plane, it had cost us $7,500. And that doesn't include the airfare. That's how much it cost us before we could even set off. Yeah, it was absolutely insane. And there was this part where me and Luke and Steve all had to go and request permission to come to America from the embassy in London.
Yeah,
And none of us live anywhere near London. We all had to go. Well, we all had to go about 200 miles. Well, I think Luke was a bit near at the time, but I had to go 200 miles. So did Steve, to go and ask permission to come to America. So we went through an awful lot to do it. But it was what a great experience we had whilst we were there. You know, we'll never forget it. One thing none of us will ever forget was. I'll leave somebody else to tell the story, but one thing we'll never forget from last time is when our bass player, just one night, decided to give us all a treat and take us to this rooftop bar overlooking Times Square. Somebody else can take up that story. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was an amazing night. We had a few drinks and then we went home. But yeah. No, but to go back to this visa application, if you want to play legally in America, it's actually insane. Guess, guys, because I was dealing mostly with this application, and to make the immigration officer happy, I had to send 110 reviews of the band.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 110. Like verifying that this is a existing band. It was like 5 centimeters of reviews, and I had to print them and I had to log them so they could see the date when the review and when it was printed. Oh man, it was such a hassle.
And they made you re-photocopy them with the margins straight.
Yeah. So like yeah, it's not enough to give them the band is the Tangent and the band is Car Mechanic. Just go to Google and you will know in 10 seconds. No, I have to provide that information. It's so silly. And yeah,
that's it. Is people genuinely, I don't think, realize that we do other things than just play the music.
No, the music is like 1% of the whole business. The rest is just bullshit.
Yeah.
No.
Organizing tours and
Yeah.
financials and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's big. It is the biggest part of it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, sorry for the Wobbler guys that time.
Yeah, they couldn't make it. No.
Mm.
They're talking about there, Ron, that we were supposed to be playing the Chicago Festival with a band called Wobbler. They were out in Norway.
Oh, yes.
I was really looking forward to seeing them because I actually really like Wobbler. And they got sent home from the airport. They arrived at the airport. Their paperwork wasn't quite as brilliantly done as Mr. Rheingold had made ours. And they got sent home, except for one of them. One of them was allowed to come through. And of course, like he turned up at the festival with no band because they'd sent the band home. We actually invited him up on stage to play with us, and he very, very kindly came up and played with us on one of our songs, and that was very nice of him. But how awful must that have been? I mean, like I don't know how many threats to national security got in on the day that they got sent home, but it was very, very difficult was that one. But we had a great time.
Some of the questions that were on that on the forums, it's crazy, aren't they?
Yeah. Have you committed genocide?
Exactly.
Yeah, that was actually on the form. Have you?
Many times. Yeah, loads.
Sorry,
You could have just said, yeah. I think it was back in the year 2.
Just absolutely. It was insane, and one of my favourite chapters about it was this letter that Jonas got off the guy, and because like Jonas, the guy in America, and I've forgotten his name,
Yeah.
he wanted a letter from Jonas's solicitor to prove something. Yeah, so Jonas's solicitor sent off this article to our guy in America, and the guy came back to us and said, I can't accept that. And we said, why? It's a letter from the solicitor. He said, but it isn't on a letterhead. Now, you guys in America have this thing called a letterhead. Well, us guys in Europe gave up on those years ago. We don't have letterheads, not so much anyway. And Jonas's solicitor just didn't have a letterhead. So in order to make this happen, I had to make the solicitor a fucking letterhead. so I designed a letterhead. We sent the letterhead to Jonas's solicitor. He wrote the letter and sent it back, and then it passed. But how is that any kind of any sense at all?
No, they were. It sounds like I heard other things where it just sounds like they were trying to make you do the. Like you were just saying, these outlandish things that have nothing to do with you wanting to come into America to play your music. And, if they're I could understand if the questions are pertaining to your music, you know, and like Jonas was saying that, you know, instead of printing up 110 reviews, the guy could have easily used his tablet or his iPhone or whatever and just gone on and logged on, and would have been easy, you know, and he could have printed up 110 reviews, you know, to put it in his file for whatever reason. You know, it doesn't really make any sense. And I think the first time I heard something, I don't know the details of it, is when what is it, Daniel from Pain of Salvation had something where he did that very angry song about America. And it was like I was like going, yeah, he was spot on about just about everything that he was saying. It was
I was with him the day that thing started, actually, because we were super late for a gig in New York City. We played the Bottom Line. This was 2002 April, and the whole 9/11 thing was still like kind of on the table, and it was prohibited to take a picture of bridges and constructions and all that, you know. It was like that for a while. So when we passed the George Washington Bridge in New York City, you know, going from New Jersey over to New York, it's nice, like you have a great view of the city, you can see everything. And Daniel leaned out the window and took a picture of the thing, you know. Now we're entering New York, and the gig is in 30 minutes and we're late, and it's like, yeah, we were on top of the world. We're playing New York City tonight, you know.
right.
And then we got pulled in by a police officer. It was a woman, and they kept us in the car for 2 hours because we took that picture. And he was actually called. He got a subpoena for that, and it was supposed to go to court.
Well,
Much later, of course, and then we were already home. But that's when his thing with that started, actually, because he was extremely annoyed by it. He just took a picture like a tourist, you know.
Right. Yeah, you know, when I heard that, I was like going, you know, I understand, you know, that was ridiculous. And, you know, it's like, you know, you just wanted to remember what you were, you know, you were there, not someone else's memory, yours. And for them to do that, that was ridiculous. When I heard that they did that to him, I was like going, you know, this is, you know,
Yeah.
just the way, I mean, you guys are just musicians, you know.
But it was interesting to see actually how America changed that week of 9/11, because I was in the country. We did a tour with the Flower Kings at that time, and we were supposed to play that day. It happened. Of course, it got canceled, and it was like, but how to see the whole country change. How the social defense to justify what Mr. Bush later did, you know, he went into
Right.
to full war, more or less, you know, against terrorism, and
Right.
how you make it legit to do that, you know. And it was through, like, first, like the 2-3 days was only coverage of the actual thing, you know, like those two planes going from different angles, and they got all the mobile footage they could have, and put together this, and they like pumping that 24 hours a day, you know. And then
Right.
like after 2-3 days, it was like people, like families that, you know, had like heroes, firefighters, or whatever, dying from this, you know, and they covered that. And at the 4th day, he had the whole nation with him when he had his famous, like, okay, we will hunt them down. And it was quite scary to see that, not living in the country. to see, wow, everybody now, he has 99% of the population with him to do this, you know.
Right.
And yeah, that was the social defense somehow. It was almost like it was scripted somehow.
Right. It was, well, when it happened, I was living out in Santa Monica in California, and the TV was on, and I was wondering, why are they playing this disaster movie at that time in the morning? And then I had, fully realized it wasn't a movie. It was, this was really happening. And it was like, and like you said, the America completely changed that day. It was no longer the one that it was,
I remember I was coming the day before on the New Jersey Turnpike on the other side of Hudson River, and we were on our way up to Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh. So we had like a few more hours to go, and we saw the skyline of New York City, and wow, like where there's the Twin Towers, and there, looking at, and that was like 10 o'clock in the evening, I guess, the day before.
Wow.
And to wake up to this catastrophe the next day was like, yeah, we were just there, yeah, we played the bottom line. I guess it was the 4th or 5th of September, just a few days before, downtown Manhattan. And it was, yeah, interesting and scary. And yeah.
We were actually in the studio that day recording a song called Aeroplane.
Yeah, really?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Jeff down the studio. No, remember that one. I won't mention him because he always tells me to shut up and don't mention it. So I won't. But we were, yeah, mad, and all those, the crazy stuff on TV.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was sat at home. I was just watching it. Couldn't believe it. And yeah, it's the song "The Truth Will Set You Free." I've always fancied there was quite a bit of that story in there. Am I right, Jonas? Is that?
I don't know. I remember when we did that tour in America, we had a song called "Last Minute on Earth."
Yes.
And it was so surreal. It was our starting number of that tour. We go up, a big intro, "Last Minute on Earth," blah 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 blah, and we were sitting like backstage like the first gig, because we played I think 2 shows after, because like 3-4 shows got canceled, and we had like 2 more to go, like a week later or something. And can we really play this song? Go up and last minute, you're like, no. So we had to change the set list. I think we did that actually, but because it was too weird to play that.
It was a great song, and I particularly like the way, that it's a very simple man. Last minute on Earth. What would you say? Who would you call? I really like that line in the song. Yeah. Who would you call? Because made me ask myself that question. Who would I call for the last minute on Earth?
I think there's a line that goes like, when your mobiles are down, because that happened today. All the whole network collapsed that day. You couldn't call anybody. I tried to call home to my pregnant wife and say, yeah, I'm cool. I'm all right. Because she knew we were staying over in Pittsburgh, and one plane was like 40 miles from Pittsburgh. It was close call, but I couldn't call home because everything was like, yeah.
Before 9/11, when I heard that song, it had a certain impact, and afterwards, every time I hear it, the hair on the back of my neck always stands up.
Yeah.
Always. And to this day, and it's like I just really couldn't. It was like just, there was a few songs that I was listening to that kind of gave me that you know, the memory of it, you know, was it New York State of Mind, you know, Billy Joel song,
Yeah.
you know, that one, you know, those kind of, all of a sudden, it's like all these songs were like rushing into my head at the same time, you know, it's like, you know, like I said, I was out on the West Coast, so, you know, I didn't, all I can see is all these images on the news of what's, you know, a friend of mine who actually, he worked in one of the towers and he got out of the tower, but years later, he, you know, he passed from cancer because of all the asbestos that, you know, and all the dust and everything got into, you know, he died of lung cancer. So it's like, that was just a weird thing when he said that he was there. And it's like, you know, I didn't know anybody that was actually there, you know, in one of the towers. And for him to come out of that and then later on pass, you know, it was so sad because I never even got to meet the guy in person, you know, talking with him back and forth on the internet. And never got to meet him.
There was a prog keyboards player who was in it that day. Forgotten his name now temporarily. It just slipped my tongue. But yeah, he was a keyboards player in a band over there. He was already ill himself, but yeah, he finally died after some years after the accident. But he was a 9/11 survivor. Yeah. It's truly a thing that changed everything, and you know, it's amazing how time's gone so fast because, you know, the Tangent was formed after that happened, and you know, our band's nearly 20 years old now. We're coming up to that next year. It's the 20th anniversary of the group first forming, the first time me and Jonas played together, and you know, I'm thinking that 9/11's even further before that. It just goes, wow, you know, for people for people my age, it's just been like a snap, you know. You kind of think, wow, was that really all that time ago, 20 years ago? It's it's quite frightening and sobering, really.
Yeah,
Right.
and Luke wasn't even born yet.
I think he was.
So we're talking about a historical event, Luke, just so you know.
All right. I think I was just going into being a teenager, so I was either having a spliff or a wank.
One of the two, yeah. Nicely put. Yeah. Yes, I think I was playing. I'd been. What year was it that you were born, Luke?
88.
1988. So in 1988, I'd already released the first Gold Frankincense and Disc Drive album before you were born, and the song that one of the songs that we play, the music that died alone, was written in 1976. So that's a good 10 years before. Yeah, but you know, this is another thing about the Tangent is that we always we never had rules about how old people had to be in the band, and
lucky you.
That's it. Yeah. But I tell you what, the thing that's always made me laugh now is that around about the time that Luke joined the band, we were looking for another drummer, and I found this drummer, and he was called Michael. Great guy, really nice guy, and a good drummer too. We liked him a lot. And Michael was 62 years old, and I remember saying to Luke, "Do you think he's a bit old to be in the band?" And now I'm 62, you know, so it catches you up pretty fast, and you know, and I still don't feel too old to be in a band. I just can't wait to play again. I mean, I haven't played music with another musician for 1.5 years. I mean, this is just not right. We just managed to do the crucial bits of the recording for our last album, Auto Reconnaissance, just before the lockdowns hit. So Steve and Theo, who will join us later, I hope, both came to my house just before lockdown started and did their sections. And we had the drums set up in Sally's wardrobe, which is a room in the house with all Sally's clothes in it. We put them all to one side and created a beautiful acoustic environment for drums. And I recorded them there. Theo came the next week, and a week after that, that was it. That's it. And of course, you know, there's another Jonas story there about what happened when, you know, because the rest of us weren't on tour. Jonas was, as usual in America, when all that hit. So yeah, another adventure to be reported on there. But that's it.
Yeah, I was in Washington D.C. You know, because we were supposed to do a gig like 1 week, 10 days before that. We kind of, it was with Steve Hackett band, by the way. 1 week, 10 days before that, we kind of started talking. Guys, do you think we like finishing this tour, or do you think we're really going to do the cruise? You know, this talk started to come up, you know, because you see, yeah, you're reading the news and everything, and it's like chaos. And then one gig got canceled, but the next wasn't. So we were a little bit hopeful, and then we ended up with like 2 days 2 days off in Washington. Bing, 10 in the morning, I get an email. Tour is over, we're going home on Sunday. All right. I read the email. Bugger, I just lost like $20,000. Okay, what should I do now? Yeah, there's a nice looking minibar over there. I ransacked the minibar at 10 in the morning, got pissed drunk, and just cried in my room. This is end of life, you know. So, and then we went home the next day. That's it, you know. Totally, utterly crappily.
Yeah, horrible, wasn't it?
Yeah. And you know, the whole year I lost so much, you know, and I didn't have a B plan. This is my job, and I was booked the whole year, and you know, home, you know, beating the bishop and doing.
But you did the band, didn't you? The backstage.
Yeah, we did the backstage. Yes. So yeah, that was like a savior, because we sat in the airport in Washington, DC, and like, okay, guys, do you have a B plan? No. Do you have a B plan? No. The whole band. What are you going to do? I don't know. Nobody knew. So okay, let's do this fusion album and invite the whole prog world to the party. And you know, everybody was home. Guess, you know, like so. We got everybody, and Andy's playing, Luke is playing. We didn't have the chance to have the talents of Mr. Roberts, but many people are on that album. So yeah, that was the same.
Hackett himself, isn't Hackett on there as well? Yeah, he's on there.
Hackett plays on it,
Yeah.
and Mark Miniman, and yes, so many. It's a long list.
So what about the producer? You got a big star producer, didn't you? What's that?
Yeah, yes, thank you for reminding me, because I'm so stupid. Chris Lord-Alge, the 5-time Grammy-nominated, awarded producer, actually mixed the album, and that was like amazing to have a guy like that finishing off a project like that, because he had nothing to do because it was Corona. So I
think that was an important thing, you know, because like for a lot of us, you know, particularly prog musicians, we didn't kind of know what to do. And I have to say that, you know, you making that record, okay, you know, I only had a small part on it, and so did everybody had a small part on it. But at least we had something to do that was to do with what we do.
Yeah.
You know, so I've always been thankful for that. I don't know about you, Luke. It was pretty.
Oh yeah, completely. Yeah, as you say, like being in the, you know, COVID times and stuff, and just having the opportunity to to be a part of the album, and with the long list of talent that's on there and producers and stuff. It's amazing, really, really cool. And that's something that's with me. I've just been over this period just doing my own solo album and stuff, and working with different musicians like yourselves and stuff, and just probably wouldn't have been able to get the time to do it otherwise, because everyone goes off and does their own things, don't they? They go on tour and go in the studio recording and all this stuff. But no, everyone was sat at home, as you say, so it was really, really cool to, get some of these guys.
Yeah, the whole Corona thing got me at least back to square one somehow. Before the days before, you didn't have anything like planned. You didn't have any gigs at all. That was the situation for me. So, okay, what do? You reinvent the wheel one more time and write another record and just trying to participate in as many projects as possible. And yeah, it was cool to connect to that part of life again somehow, when you don't know, and you have to fight every day to make some money, just to pay your bills.
Yeah.
The first part after it was all announced and everything, the first and most important call for me was to Luke to say, okay, are you okay to continue with making our album Auto Reconnaissance? Because as I say, we just got the bits finally finished before pandemic, and I guess that was me and Luke's the first lockdown for us here in England was all about making that record. And there was a sense, and I know that Luke feels the same about it, that both of us kind of didn't notice the lockdown because, we just we're in the studio mode. And I know what I'm like, it can be the middle of summer and I won't even notice that the sun's shining if we're making a record. So we just got completely into making that record. Luke was producing the record, so I was having to furnish him with exactly what he needed. So I was very busy working for him, and he was working on behalf of the whole band. And so, by the time we finished it and all the artwork came together, and Luke's partner Sarah did a lot of the artwork for us as well, because we couldn't get together to have a photo. So we thought, let's have a bloody painting of the band instead. So she did that for us, which, this is the kind of thing that came out of lockdown, was little moments like that. And then suddenly we were finished. We sent the album off, and then we kind of thought, right, okay, let's get back to normal. And we found out, oh shit, normal's gone. They actually weren't talking rubbish on the news. Normal's gone out of the window. So we all kind of had to decide what to do next. And I can say that I know that Luke's now making this solo album, which is quite a remarkable piece of work. I've heard a great deal of it, and it's going to be. It's really rather individual, I have to say. It takes a lot more than just prog, but certainly makes something that fits the manifesto of progressive rock music, even if it isn't kind of exactly what it's supposed to be. So that's happening. Jonas and I have got involved with a crazy little project to remake an album by an Italian band that. In other words, we've actually written a new album inspired by an old album which never got released. That's something we've been doing. That's called Tillyson Rheingold Tiranti, which is with an amazing Italian singer who we've done this with, and an Italian lyricist. And that's a kind of project I've had in the back of my mind for years that I'd like to do. And lockdown has made it possible for me to do it. And it's also made a situation possible where I can ring up Rheingold in the middle of the night and say, hey, Jonas, I just idea, let's just do this album by an Italian band who never existed or did once, but they never made a record. He goes, yep, sounds like a good idea. Send me the files. So I send him the files. And, at normal times, he'd go, what the fuck are you on about? Italian band who never existed. think of something else on it. But this particular time, he just goes, yeah, we'll do that. And we've done it. And Steve's cooking away on something. And Theo, when he finally turns up, he goes, well, I'll go and make an album for the sort of Peruvian nose flute or something. And it's playing this Armenian duduk, you know, and he's made an album doing that. So
Great.
a lot of creativity has definitely come out of lockdown, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you see where Luke's sitting underneath those nice little fairy lights, where he is now, and his little desk lamp on in the background. I want to be there, you know. I mean, it's just not fair that we can't see each other. So I can't wait for this all to go. I'll stop talking now. Over to you, Ron. As it is
Yeah,
buggered. Oh,
Yeah, I am here. Yeah, no, I've talked to different people about how the lockdown affected them. Some have not done anything, and some have done album. Some actually one band that I know is going to be putting out 2 albums this year. You know, it's a part 1 and a part 2, and I'm like going, wow, that's going to be huge. You know, very seldom, haven't heard much bands putting 2 albums out in a long one in the same year. Another guy, he Robert Berry, he was telling me, he said, I learned how to do some behind the scenes things, like with audio and video, so it's like, it was through the tragedy, there was some opportunities for musicians to learn, do albums that they, like you and Jonas, wouldn't have done normally. And then people like myself doing, this kind of a show to bring together bands and to for them to talk about their adventures or misadventures, and to talk about their music and any new projects that they have. It was something, if the pandemic didn't hit, I don't think I would have been doing something like this, because everybody that I wanted would have been busy on tour, and wouldn't been able to, especially for you guys, getting you guys all at the same time. So
yeah,
it had its opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody was home, so it for those who wanted to do something, had a good chance. So yeah. Head of PR is gone.
no, I'm just. Can you still hear me?
I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see if I can find Theo.
Okay.
It was funny. I've just been finishing this last track off on my on this record. I've just been writing this pretty intense, like, jazz section, and I had the headphones on, and this was like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, just yesterday or this morning, and it's really funny because we haven't been playing live or anything for ages, and then all of a sudden there's this like really intense bit, and the clicks coming in with the counting, and I'm there with my guitar trying to get ready, and it's going like doing all this crazy click, and I'm like, oh, because I haven't played live for ages, I was a bit like, oh bloody hell, gotta like come in here quite quickly on the fucking dot and doing getting like palpitations trying to record, because I haven't fucking played with anyone for ages. It's really funny.
It is. I remember one day I was working in my studio, and I was working for this really, really fussy band from Manchester, who were the fussiest band in the world. And it was back in the days of analog mixing. So you did their final mix, and you had to do it right with your fingers, just like this, until the very second of the show. You make one mistake, you had to go right back to the beginning and start again. And I'd made an awful lot of mistakes with this fussy band. And I remember that finally I just said, look, I need a break. We're going to go to the pub. So we all went off to the pub, sat down, ordered a meal. I was sat there at the pub, just relaxing at the table. And suddenly suddenly somebody put a track on the jukebox. And I was just sat there in my chair. And I suddenly sat up and I went, and I put my hands on the table as if I suddenly had to put my hands on the mixer, because I was so wrapped up in this mix that the music came on and I suddenly thought, oh, I got a mix. So it's a bit like that, you know, you get so into it and you can't get out of it. And that's that. I find it really difficult to just sit back and enjoy music when I'm recording and performing and you know, generally, you know, like for example, when I'm making an album and I'm playing, the last thing I want to do is hear Keith Emerson doing it better. You know, or Chick Corea, you know, I mean, like, you know, so I'm making a record and suddenly put some Chick Corea on. I think, oh, fucking hell, why don't I just give up? So I tend to not listen to as much music whilst I'm actually making music, and then go back to it afterwards and see what I'm into, you know, because it's not always prog, and I know that's the same for everybody else here.
Yeah, ignorance is a bliss, you know. So yeah, I think it's of course it's not a good thing to right before a bass take and just in the studio monitor put on the best parts of Jaco Pastorius ever played. That can be good from an inspiration point of view, but not if you have a customer in the studio, because it will be quite clear, quite fast what it's all about, you know. So, you know, I think you have to choose that wisely.
Yeah.
When to listen and when to get inspired, and also when to not you know, don't show your weakness all the time. That's good.
He's a philosopher, this one.
Yeah. If you don't know the part, don't play it, because you know. At least you don't fucking up, you know.
I mean, he had that. We do get
as a bass player. If you don't know the part, you do that vroom, 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 for a couple of bars before. Okay, maybe they will land on a G soon. That boom! Yes, I was on the one. Great. That's what we do. Yeah.
You're working on some at the moment, aren't you, Steve? Because I heard some of your stuff the other day. It sounded very nice. What's the plan over?
See how it goes. It was the original lack of plan. It's just these things. It's like planting a seed and then it's just grown. So, I mean, I've done an album with David Cross Band. That's in sort of production stages, last, you know, mixing and getting into that. And his bass player Mick Paul did an album with him. That's out now. But yeah, the stuff I started working on just came from nowhere, really. It wasn't like a plan. Just
yeah. But that's a lockdown thing, isn't it? You know, so, you know, you could either watch another Netflix series or you could make an album, and so you made an album. Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of bands just of different genres are doing those lockdown videos where, you know, everybody's in there playing their part in each of the squares, and then someone mixes it together and puts a music video out.
Yeah, we did one of those.
Oh yeah.
I always thought that those were a great way to let fans know, you know, we're still here. You know, we're still here in this crazy time.
I actually must say, I've really enjoyed watching people playing musical instruments. You know, a lot less people a lot less people walking around sort of like looking lost and moody and cool and wearing fabulous clothing and all that kind of stuff. I've enjoyed the fact to just watch people sat down playing musical instruments and making good music. So
there's some hilarious ones. Like I come from a small town up north called Congleton, right? And some fantastic posts of people just in their houses doing karaoke's, and they're not necessarily great, but they're fantastic in their own way. You know, it's amazing.
Absolutely,
it's brilliant. I love it.
And Robert Fripp and Toyah have made an industry out of it, haven't they?
Oh yeah, those the songs that they pick are just hilarious.
I believe they've done Firestarter. I haven't seen that yet, but I must.
Killer.
Well, she's each time, at least in the past month or so, she's wearing more and more revealing outfits.
I can see that would work. I can see that would work for certain people. I'm not one of them, of course.
And then they got what was it? I don't remember the guy's name, but he's wearing some kind of devil mask, playing guitar too. Yeah.
I don't know.
They have a third person on their little videos. I think it was in the past, maybe 4 of them. I don't remember. I don't remember his name, but he's wearing a mask.
Well, that could be anybody, really, couldn't it?
Right.
Batman.
And I think the last one that they did had a little buzz cut mohawk.
Yes, that's when he was. I think that's when they were doing. Firestarter by the Prodigy. Yeah, which is a great record. Anyway, yeah. Well, anyway, they've made an industry out of doing that. There sure had to be some innovation about it. I want to sort of like say that lockdowns, apart from making me miss my friends and miss my family, because I haven't seen my family for any of my children or my grandchildren since 2019 Christmas, and there was something I started to notice. I just started to feel a lot older, and start thinking, that I'm becoming a bit slower. And of course, that just could be natural anyway, but it suddenly seemed to happen. And I live out in the countryside, which is a lovely thing to be, and it's certainly very invigorating when it wants to be. And of course, it means I am a little bit freer to go around and walk out of the house and everything. But I just feel that something changed here during lockdown, and I hope that I will be able to get back to being my normal self. But I feel that I've got a feeling somewhere inside me that it won't ever be quite the same again. I don't know. I don't know if any of the rest of you feel this, but
No, but of course we don't have a rush to get into the coffin. Like we move slow.
Yeah.
Our life.
Yeah.
So I actually did the calculation on that because I was heavily into track and fields, and I did long jump as a veteran. So I did approximately 6 meters or so when I was 45 and was competing. So I took the average of when people are dying. Okay, it's like maybe in Sweden is 85. Let's say 85. I was 45. That's 40 years. Okay, if that date when I'm 85 is 0, how many centimeters will I lose each year before I get to 0? So I came to the conclusion when I'm jumping 0, I'm dead. So it means that I'm losing 9 centimeters every year. naturally, and that's the decay, or how you would call it, to get into the comfort. Of course, you don't want to rush that, so that's why we move a bit slower when we get older.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to lose 9 centimeters a year. Bloody hell.
No. I don't think Sarah would want that either, really. She'd be up in arms about that one.
Yeah, but that's really cool. Die like a man. You're on the pitch, the track and field court, and you put, instead of having the sand thing in there, you have a big coffin. So you running and do the last jump straight into the coffin, bang, down. And died like a man.
Yeah. Okay.
Come back out as a zombie.
I see. I see that something that interested me today, and I haven't seen it, but I haven't actually had time to watch it. But I noticed that Rick Beato has managed to get a kind of long interview with Joni Mitchell. Has anybody seen it?
No, it's not published yet. He was on dinner with Joni Mitchell a few days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I was extremely in envy when he said that. Because I have a question for her.
You have a question for her?
Yeah, many.
Same here. I mean, because like, as you know, Jonas, I've been listening to that Esperanza Spalding recently, and there's a lot of her music which you can tell is influenced by Joni, and the way she sings and the way she puts the songs together. You can tell that she's heard a lot of Don Juan's Reckless Daughter and Mingus and things like that, and of course it's lovely music. Please don't get me wrong; she's a fantastic musician, is Esperanza, but there's still that sort of core that's just only Joni has. I think all of us, Ron, are big Joni Mitchell fans. I think everybody in the group is a fan, and she's been a big influence to us all over the. I don't know. Are you a Joni Mitchell fan, Ron?
I've heard some of their music. I'm slowly kind of getting more into older music because growing up until 1980, when I was 14. All I listened to, whatever was on the radio, whatever my parents had on the car radio. So I wasn't paying attention to it too much. But then on my 14th birthday, a friend of mine gave me on cassette Rush Permanent Waves. And I didn't know at first why he gave it. And then when I listened to it, I understood why he gave it to me, because he thought that I needed to get that push more into music. And from then on, I just been looking forward to, new releases, but then at the same time been going and getting older things that I missed the first time around, or things that I may have had on cassette back in the day and needed to get it on CD. I was like, that's a lot of this stuff is mixture of new releases and older stuff.
Yeah.
But some, I like one of the things that I just grabbed right off the shelf that I had never listened to before.
Oh, right. Good gracious me. I saw them once. Yeah. Yeah. Hard rock. They were Welsh, weren't they?
Yes.
I played with Bert quite a bit.
Yeah, and just stuff like that, and also being on Facebook, everybody's recommending albums to listen to. So it's like,
Yeah, that becomes a problem sometimes, doesn't it? Because you don't know where to, you get so many recommendations every day, you don't know what to like. And by the way, actually, that first record for you, that Permanent Waves, I mean, like if the Tangent were to have two mottos over our office door. Well, the day we get an office door, for me, they would be lyrics from that album, because like all of us, you see, we make records using computers these days, and we use an awful lot of technologies to do it. And what we all want to do is to try and make that music just as meaningful as it was with a string quartet or an orchestra. We want to actually make music that moves people. And Rush encapsulated so much in that line. All this machinery making modern music can still be open-hearted, So that would be on the wall, and the one underneath it would be glittering prizes and endless compromises shatter the illusions of integrity. Because, we're not into that whole thing of, trying to beat our competitors or be the best or anything like that. All we want to do is make music that moves people. We're not in a game. We're not in a competition. We're not after a trophy. We just want to make music and make people happy. So those are, two really, really great lines. Such a great lyricist, Neil Peart. One of my own favourites, Ron. But Joni Mitchell, of course, is just another magnificent lyricist. So my recommendation for you is The Hissing of Summer Lawns. What an amazing record that is. But anyway, that's enough. I've talked. I've had my bit.
So
I'm going to add Living in the Pools, They Soon Forget About the Sea as well. I like that one.
The what?
Living in their pools, they soon forget about the sea. Natural Science.
Ah.
Yeah, when
What's
I got
What's your favourite Joni album, Jonas?
Difficult to answer. The one I probably listened the most to is a live album from 1979, Shadows and Light.
Shadows and Light.
The reason I got into that was because I became a big Jaco Pastorius fan, and they also had Michael Brecker and Pat Metheny and Don Elias on percussion. So it was from a muso perspective, it's just an amazing album. It's the best playing. It's otherworldly.
It's incredible, Spike. All these people, all these hero musos, and and they're all just they just want to be in the band with Joni.
Yes, but together with Joni's depth and lyricist and the songs, it's just amazing music. That's what I always tend to like live albums the most, because it happened there. And in the old days, it actually happened there, because it was not really a chance to redo them like we do today. It's quite simple to replace something. The vocalist is out of pitch. Okay, just redo it. Blah blah blah. So it's not a big thing anymore. But in the old days, I think a live album represented the band better than a studio album. Live albums from like the 70s.
Yeah, definitely.
And there was a local DJ out in Los Angeles years ago. And said, I don't remember the exact words, but he basically said a live album is like the achievement of what they've done, the band did up to that time. Where you get to hear that way, and so it's like whenever bands put out, I think if a band puts out a live album, almost every tour, an official one. I mean, there's a lot of bands that do the unofficial live one for their, whether if it's for a fan club or something like that, or official bootleg, But I think it's like a document of where the band is at that point,
Yeah, nowadays many bands tend to just squeeze out the last dollar of that tour by releasing like a live DVD or a live album that isn't live, because everybody goes back, not all the time, of course, but in the old days, now I sound like an old fart, but in the old days, at least it was a document of something that happened that night. If you go and watch Frank Zappa's Roxy and Elsewhere,
We did.
yeah,
We did,
that amazing documentation of that night, not that tour, not like the concert, that night, it happened in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's great. And I miss that, because it people open Melodyne like a program for pitch correction and fixing everything, and you can easily move files in the computer nowadays, and it's boring. It's not a documentation anymore.
Yeah, I think as well, one of the biggest differences between bands putting out live records and bands years ago was that when they released a studio album, they were still working on the music almost. They went on tour, and then every night they were kind of working on the set list, and it was growing, getting bigger, putting different parts in, making it more of a feature live and stuff. Whereas these days they're trying to sound as much like the studio record as they possibly can live, and it just saps all the energy out of it, doesn't it?
You could listen to some of the bootleg, and you could hear like some of the early arrangements of tunes. More of an insight of how it came about.
I totally agree here. Totally agree with everything you're saying there, because I think one of the things that I learned from the last Tangent tour was that I don't want to do it like that again. I don't want to sit there trying to reproduce all the sounds and have all the same textures that are on the record that were there last time. I want to just be able to, stick a Hammond organ on the stage and play it, and let the power of the performance fill in the things that we're having to leave out. And obviously, we have to make. There are reasons why we don't do it the same way as before. I mean, if you look at Gentle Giant, for example, just a randomly selected band, they were together all the time. They were all playing. They were playing all over the country. And then when they weren't gigging, they were in the studio together. And nowadays, we're all a lot further apart from each other. So that meshing of the group from the corner of your street and the part of your town, that's nowhere near as easy to accomplish anymore, because everybody's moving off. They get a job. Somebody ends up on a different side of or somebody ends up in Austria, for example. So we never get that kind of togetherness that would let that happen.
It's very clear when I speak about the old times with Steve, for example, we're sitting in the bus and blah blah blah, and somebody asks something. Well, how was this Foxtrot recording? How blah 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 blah, whatever comes up. I get the impression that you played with one band, and that's it. You devoted your whole life to that band in the old days. You didn't have like 92 other bands that poking for attention. You played with Genesis, and that's it, which of course was a great gig, of course. But that's also, I think, the reason they became so big, because they did that 100%.
Yeah.
It's not fiddling around and playing in the pub next day just to make 70 quid extra. It was playing with them and do the best you can, and devote all your creativity and all your energy into the band.
And they were young.
Yeah, and they were young, of course. Yeah.
Which allowed, not nowhere near as many responsibilities with kids, home, mortgages, that kind of stuff. They were just able to devote themselves to that one thing.
Yeah.
For me as a fan, when you come back to the live thing, I've seen some bands that play the albums and the songs note for note, and there's like no room for, they wanted to do, you know, improv a little bit here and there. They just do it exactly. And those kind of bands, I'd rather save that money that I pay for the ticket, stay home and listen to the CD. You know, when I go see a band live, I don't want to hear the exact song that I'm hearing on the CD. I want, it's like I kind of think that sometimes, maybe I'm wrong, but the musicians, once you put it down on CD, and then later on you go, oh wait, I wanted to do something a little different here, but it's already on CD. So that's where live comes into play.
Yeah, you're absolutely
do
right.
that. You can do that part where, oh, I left that part up, I wanted to do that, but it didn't, for whatever reason, now I can do it live. And that's what I like to hear is bands doing, not note for note.
Well, it's the difference between, if you go and see the Pink Floyd, when the Pink Floyd were playing, last time I saw the Pink Floyd, it was meticulous recreation of the albums, absolutely, perfectly, exactly as they are. It was a great show, yeah, but then you go and see Van der Graaf Generator, who never play the same set twice. You've got no idea what they're going to do from night to night, where they'll suddenly decide to go off on one and that kind of stuff. And when you talking about the live records, yeah, you are right, and Jonas is right, that those great 70s live albums were a unique thing in themselves, and some of them, kind of became a really good document of what this band were like at the time, like Yes Songs, for example, and then you get a magnificent one showing how tremendously talented and technically able Genesis were and stuff like that. But then you get there are a couple, and one in particular where it's such a good representation of the night that it's not just like the Zappa one where you can go, wasn't that cool? There's one album where when you put it on, you're actually still at that fucking concert. It's still happening right now. And made in Japan, I would submit, you put this Deep Purple record on and suddenly you're actually there in the audience listening to this show.
One of the best.
It's just an amazing record.
It's very well mixed because they also brought in the audience perspective into that mix somehow. You can hear the claps, you can hear everything, and you can clearly hear it's not added claps, it's actually the claps from the concert. And they were clever. They made it happen like that, actually. The mix and everything, the way the band sounded, of course, it's one of the best live albums ever made, I would say. Made in.
Right on, brother. Apart from Tanjacanic live in Hotel Cartavone, which is
well, that's good too, but next subject, please. Maybe we.
You think it's because of technology now that so easily that you can fix things that make the live albums today not have the same magic as the ones in the, up the 80s?
Yeah, but today you can suck and still sound good. That's the problem, You just give me 3 hours and a computer, and I can make you wrong, like sounding like Whitney Houston.
Yeah,
so
I'd look like it. Well, I need to say at this point that we're having a conversation, and the majority of us are of a certain age and older, but I think that there is for example, you and I, Jonas, have just spent a long time trying to make things not perfect and to sort of like accept mistakes and accept sort of sounds that aren't exactly as we would like them to sound, but a bit more like they would have sounded. And of course, there's some incredible new music and people using technology for for reasons that we haven't even begun to think that they do. I mean, it came a long way from things like Paul Hardcastle's 19 through to producers like Squarepusher and Aphex Twin and Floating Points. These guys making incredible music using computers, and some of it's staggeringly beautiful and highly innovative, and with every bit as much magic for the people who are listening to that now as the music we listened to when we were kids. So
I'm not saying that music, computer-based music, let's call it that, that you have a laptop, you have all the nice plugins and the synthesizers inside your little laptop, and you put it in your program, and you can download like chord structures and everything. Of course, you can be extremely creative with that, and the world is showing that, because there are a lot of good music coming out. But I think it's important to not forget how important it is to actually just take an instrument like a guitar, piano, and just play some music there. Nothing, no technology, just a pure, like what's inside here that goes out in the hands, and play something that can move people. Yeah. That's an art. If we lose that art, I think we are in a dangerous situation somehow when it comes to music.
We've said this before, actually. Sally and I had this conversation about what would happen in the case of a kind of end of the world situation where all the electricity went off and there was no internet and there was no electricity anymore. And we said, well, at the moment we're kind of at the bottom of the pile of life, a poor musician, and Sally, who's she works in university admin. We're not exactly high up the social order here, but if the electricity was to go off and there was no power left at all, I can play the piano and she can shoe a horse. So we'd suddenly be top of the pile again, wouldn't we? Because we'd have, that's it. I can play the piano and I can sing an Elton John song, and she could put a horseshoe on. So there we go.
And I'm going outside the King Castle with my acoustic guitar. Yeah, you're having a party tomorrow, I heard. Yes, you need some fun.
That's it. Our time will come again. We'll be back to being wandering minstrels.
Yeah.
Better practice that acoustic, Luke. Sorry, Steve, your voice is a bit quieter than ours. Just say what you were saying again.
Oh no, I was just saying I don't need electricity for the things over there which you hit.
Oh well, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's quiet now, but he will be the loudest then.
Yeah, he certainly will. Can you turn the drums down?
Yeah.
We've never had that problem with Steve though, being too loud, have we? That's always been a problem in nearly every band I've ever been in. But Steve seems to actually hit them hard, but not make quite as much noise. I'm not sure why that is, but anyway, it's been a good one. Yeah. Theo has contacted me and he won't be able to join us, I'm afraid. So anybody waiting for Theo, he's been held up by a family engagement, so he can't make it. He's probably just seen he's probably taken one look at us and thought, I'm not going to hang around with that. So yeah, Luke, do you want to just tell us about this album that you're making, and because like I know all about it, but people who are listening aren't, because it's going to be the great new guitarist album of the year. So there you go. Tell them about it, Luke.
Do you happen to have any exciting bass players on that album?
We have a couple. We have one of note. Yeah, this is just
Yeah, maybe you muted that channel in mix, I don't know, maybe I'm not on the album, so I'm jumping ahead here.
Yeah. Um, we I started kind of writing this probably about 3 or 4 years ago, just in amongst other things, Machine and Tangent and different projects and stuff. But finally, when obviously lockdown happened, started to properly work on it, and yeah, it's like a collection of music that I've been really in love with over the past 5 or 6 years. A different side to what I listen to, really. Obviously, there's like the progressive rock and metal and coming from that kind of background, but this is all like R&B, neo soul, jazz, fusion, and jazz funk. It's a very different thing. Doing it all myself as well. It's like composing every single part, and then obviously thinking about Taylor's parts to go with certain musicians and stuff like that, and then involving different people and just trying to build it up like that, really. But yeah, as we've been speaking with lockdown happening and people being at home, I've managed to get a few special guests on it, which has been really cool. Like Marco's laid down a fantastic drum track for me, and Mr. Rheingold has been fucking brilliant on this same track, actually, doing his thing. It's been amazing. I'm just actually composing the track that Andy will feature on, and it's the last one that I'm working on now. But no, it's been killer. I've been grafting away at this, and I've been loving it. Just really hammering down these compositions and stuff. But it's a totally different thing to what I normally do and what I've been doing in the past. And yeah, I've loved it. I just can't wait to kind of bring it out and release it and stuff. But yeah.
Well, it's always nice when, at least from the audience standpoint, that someone in a band releases a solo album, where it's completely different and maybe outside their comfort zone, and because, let's just say, for instance, Andy does a solo album and does something completely different. We know the voice, but it's like he's doing something different than, the Tangent. Like I remember Andy didn't sing, but he did an electronic album of.
Probably Fog or Merc, one of the two.
Yeah, I think that was the one. But I don't like when an individual band member, when they go solo, do sounded the same as what they did in their band. Case in point, going back to Genesis, Phil Collins and Genesis music in the 80s pretty much sounded the same. And, so it was like, why couldn't you just kept it as, one or the other, and it's like, for me, it's like, I'd rather hear, when he did that, when he was in Brand X, that was something completely different than what he was doing at the time. Mm-hmm. So, to do the same thing or not venture out and try new things, I think that would kind of stifle your playing, because if you just play the same thing over and over again, it's almost like you become kind of almost a robot, or like you were talking about computer, music. It's like you're, human computer music, you're just doing the same thing over and over again. And it's like, it's nice to hear a musician do something different. And even if it's not rock, for me, as I've gotten older, years ago in the 90s, that's all I cared about. If any of the prog musicians did something different, I'll be like, how dare you? Now it's like, you know,
This is a. I get what you're saying, and this is something that when I first heard Luke's album, the first thing I thought was, I've had an experience like this before, and it was a very long time ago, but there was a progressive rock guitarist, a very famous progressive rock guitarist, the one out of Focus, Jan Akkerman, and he went away and he made ostensibly a solo album, which was a soul album, and it had drum machines on it, and it had a far more soul and kind of totally non-prog environment. And back in the day when I first heard it, I kind of thought, this is a bit odd, but then I kind of thought, it's a bit odd, but I really like it, and yes, that's the kind of thing that you want, isn't it? To, if you are going to take a break from your main band, then it's a nice idea to do something different. And but what I've heard of Luke's album, I've heard most of the tracks at various stages of their development, and it's an album which, if you like The Tangent, you're not necessarily going to love it, but you've got just as much chance as anybody else of loving it. And so you'd come to it and love it for its own sake, not because it's something to do with this band who you do like. And, it's another opportunity to see another side of somebody. And of course, that's what we all like. And, it's like the very thing that Joni Mitchell did herself, starting off as a kind of folk singer, and then saying, you know what, there's another me, and I'm a jazz musician, and then suddenly, whoa, same with Dylan, and it's musicians like that who can do it. I'm afraid, my latest project is another straightforward prog thing, but and I'll tell you more about that in a sec. But yeah, that's. But it must have been. I think this must have been a real eye opener for you, Luke, because every single new thing's a learning story, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I think being like progressive music and being a progressive artist, you really, and being a fan of music just in general, you really so many different styles, so many different pieces of music that you listen to from week to week. It could be like orchestral stuff, or a tight knit jazz piece, or so many different production ideas and styles that you kind of get influenced by. So being heavily influenced by like all walks of music, you kind of trying to stay true to the word progressive, really, and that's what kind of I've always been drawn towards with people like yourself, Andy, and like Francis Dunnery and Daniel Gildenlow and those guys, just being like Robert Plant, being truly progressive, going out there. And even Plant, he went to did his it's like Eastern stuff, and just a totally different output of his own music, his own musical mind. And this is basically what that is. It's just a whole other side to something that I've already been into for like 5, 6, 7 years and stuff, and just trying to write it and compose it in a way that's kind of from a rock and metal background, but making it so much of a twist that it's you can kind of hear somewhat of those areas, but it's just a different thing. It's a really, really cool, exciting thing to get into, and obviously during lockdown, it's just been really cool doing it. Yeah,
but it all ends up, feeding back, because whatever you learn from doing this, at some time, whatever we do next, there'll be something that comes into us from that, and in the same way as that, Jonas worked with other people and learned. I mean, when we first started this band, I was just straightforward, you know, prog, 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 prog. And I remember being at Jonas's house working and things, and him trying to educate me about jazz fusion, and me going, no, this isn't very good. No, this is just clever musicianship for the sake of it. But somewhere or other down that, you know, through those silly conversations, he got to me, and I'm like, now all I listen to is you know, is Jacko and Chick Corea and the greats of jazz fusion. I listen to an awful lot of that, and you know, so learning from each other is just amazing. I think Steve's the first drummer who kind of we've ever had in the band who actually listened to the same kind of stuff that I was listening to, so that you know that up till now I'd had to explain to people, possibly apart from Morgan, who knew all these guys, but I had to explain who Pit Pyle and Bill Bruford were, and you know, and how I wanted them to sort of like try to line it up. And we had one of the early drummers in the Tangents actually suggested that we should sound a bit more like Aerosmith with the drums. He said the drums sound a little bit dry, and I said, well, how do you think it should sound? And he sent me "Loving a Fucking Elevator" by Aerosmith. You want the drums to sound like that in a song about being lost in London? Sorry, Steve, I think you were going to say something there.
No, I just sort of interjected with the music you were on about. I'd said Hansen and Carlson too.
Yeah, Hansen and Carlson. I mean, that's it. I mean, we love our obscure Swedish music. Bo Hansen, we've listened to a lot of that, particularly when we were in Sweden. We had that on all the time, didn't we? It was good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the pleasure to spend the whole day with Janne Karlsson, the drummer.
Really?
Yeah. Haven't you heard that story?
No, I have not heard this story. Immediately.
No, okay. I was selected as a honorable jury member of Swedish Drum Championship 2000 and whatever it was. It was me, Mickey D from Motorhead, and Janne Karlsson, the drummer from Hansen Karlsson. So yeah, us three being a jury, and we listening to like 45 drummers during the day, and we giving points and blah blah blah. And
I hope they've paid you well.
Well, I got free beer, and so did Janne Karlsson. He's an amazing guy because he's not only a drummer, he's a very established actor in Sweden as well. So he played drums during the late 60s, a bit into the 70s, and then he switched and became this superstar actor in Sweden, doing a lot of blockbusters and all that. But he was an incredible sensitive personality that I could sense being with him a whole day. And when he started to talk about memories from the old days, he started to cry, you know, like we'll be sitting there, both me and Mickey D from Motorhead, and he's not maybe as sensible as, but it shows he was extremely true to himself all the time. That guy, extremely.
Speaking of Swedish, this is one that
What's that? I cannot see.
Mr. Brown.
Who, Mr. Brown? Is that? That's who did this album?
Trans Substance. It was from like 70 something.
No, I haven't heard.
Yeah, this from 77.
All right. Who's playing on it? Then I might know it.
Sounds like one for you and me, Steve. Does this one?
Could well be.
Who's playing on it?
Let's see if I can get them pictures up.
Yeah. Any names? It's hard for me.
Let me see. One just has a Jan Peter. They're only going by their first names.
Okay.
Okay.
Lars, Robert.
No, it's Motorhead. No, it's Metallica. It's Metallica. They've got somebody called Lars in the band. Yeah.
But it was just like one of those. It was a one-off thing. That,
Okay. Yeah.
some labeling.
Well, this thing that Jonas and I have just been doing is based around something from the 70s that kind of got a bit lost. And we've made this album with this Italian singer called Roberto Tiranti, and he's actually the singer in a classic Italian band called the New Trolls already, and he's played with lots of other people, including Ken Hensley from Uriah Heep. And I had this idea because when I was about 15 or 16 years old in '76, I forget which year I was when the birthday was, but I went to Italy, and whilst I was staying on this holiday camp, I actually saw a band playing, and during the afternoon when they were sound checking, they played their own progressive rock music, and I was allowed to go on the stage and have a go on their synthesizer. And I was, only, as I say, a teenager. And I played a bit of the synthesizer, and they joined in with me and gave me my first experience. And I saw my first ever electric band that day. I got to play with them that day, and I touched my first synthesizer that day. And so that was kind of a big day for somebody who then spent their life trying to make prog rock. And that band, it seems, never made a record. Of course, lots of other Italian bands did at the time. They were actually Albanian with an Italian lead singer. And so I had a tape of theirs, which I lost a couple of years later. So I haven't heard that tape for 48 years. And just in conversations with people, I suddenly came to the idea that wouldn't it be great if I kind of made this record, which was a kind of thank you to that band. And we could actually recreate it, recreate not it, but an album that said what they said to me that day in '76, 46 years ago. So I asked Jonas, as I said before, and he said, yes, we'd do this. And this led us into a whole new world of how do we get it to sound right? And, the first thing is that the drum machine sounded a bit dodgy. So I had to go and get a drum kit and play the drums myself on it and record that. And Jonas, you had to go back to a really old bass.
Yeah.
You haven't got that.
So
it's
normally I use like a Fender or Rickenbacker, but this time I used this half acoustic bass that sounds like a bass from the 60s, 70s somehow. And yeah,
it has those it has vinyl wound around the strings and it's starting to peel off.
Yeah, it's a totally different instrument, and but it was cool. It's a little slightly out of pitch, and you have to just accept that because it's not so well intonated, but I think it works perfectly in this context.
So one of the things we've done, Ron, is to actually, you're asking the questions about the modern technology. But of course, we've had to use that modern technology because we haven't suddenly got loads of analog vintage recording equipment in the cupboard or anything. But
by the way,
decided to.
Didn't this American lawyer's name it was Ron Seelens?
It was Ron what?
Seelens.
No, it was Ron, but I don't think it's Salient yet.
Ron Salens. Okay, all right.
We'll get it. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
We got the first name right.
Yeah, we've got the first name. Yeah. But anyway, to carry on before whilst that's coming, and it's coming by the end of the show, I promise you. We took everything very seriously, and even down to we decided how many tracks the tape recorder had for this. Okay, because we've got infinite tracks, of course, but we decided how many tracks we'd got and worked out how we could have done what we've done with 16 tracks and only 16 tracks. So we recorded the drums and bounced them onto a series of tracks, and the keyboards are all bounced onto a series of tracks. And so at the end of the whole process, Jonas and I will both do a mix of the album, but all we will have is 16 tracks, as the group would have had if they'd recorded it in 1976. And we've been saying, okay, we can't have this sound because this reverb couldn't have existed then. We only can have this kind of reverb. We can't have this kind of echo. We can't have this kind of guitar. We can't have this kind of guitar playing because Eddie Van Halen hadn't been discovered. We can't have this synthesizer because it didn't exist. So it's been an unbelievable little adventure that we've had of rediscovering what our antecedents really had to work with and how they could have made things happen. And and that's coming out very soon. And if you visit a Tangent website and things like that, you'll find out more about it. And so that's my plug for that done. And it's been a lot of fun.
That's the name. I Google it now.
It is indeed, yeah. When you write it down, that's it. Ron Zealands.
Yeah, that's what I said.
It is.
Absolute legend.
It's just that you said it in Swedish, though. So
yeah, I didn't have this like a bee sound. No.
We were on the phone to him all the time, weren't we?
Yeah, he was eating pizza, having a great time.
Yeah, and he's got $7,600 that we earned.
Now, I think I don't think everything got into his pocket because he had paid a few people, but it was a good gig for him.
Yeah, it wasn't for us though, was it?
No, it wasn't. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Now, I remember we were having an evening in Germany. I think the Inside Out guys were there at the time, and we were all just sitting there going, what are we going to do? And we were really panicking that night, and it was looking really bleak. We were at Oberhausen, weren't we? And we were all just sat there saying, what the heck are we going to do? And the door opened, and Steve walked in with an enormous crate of beer. And we all said, oh, that's what we're going to do. And that was the end of it. Beer.
Well, Germany, wasn't it? That's what happens in Germany.
Yeah. Yes, it was. Beer. And then there was a day where we got busted by the police in 2 days, wasn't there? Twice in 2 days. Once because me and Steve burgled Jonas's mum's house and got caught. Yeah. And then the next, because Jonas was asleep in the house, we couldn't get in, so we had to climb in through the window. We got reported. The police came round. We still couldn't wake Jonas up. And then the next day, we got busted for trying to cross the bridge without our seatbelts fastened. So I remember you saying that you dealt with the police more in 2 days with the Tangent than you had in the past 25 years.
Yeah. I was shoplifting in 1976, and that's it, All of a sudden, this police attack.
It's a very good neighborhood watch in that area, mind.
Yeah. But it's good that those things happen because then you always have a story. Imagine nothing happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, that as I say,
Yeah. You know, tragedy is a great source for something, you know, for a story.
Well, years ago, in the early '90s, I had a friend of mine. He had a band. It was a three-piece. They were kind of metal, but they had some prog influences. Where the guitar player, he played Toccata on it. You know, the LP. He played that, and one day they were playing at the Roxy on Sunset Strip, and he told me to go out on stage and do something on his amp. I had no idea what he was talking about, but he was really insistent that I go do it. Okay, I went out there, I did whatever he told me to do, and it sent out a wave of feedback out into the audience. You can hear everybody screaming, you know, my ears, my ears. And the light was right on my face so they could see who I was. And all I really wanted to do was melt into the stage because I couldn't get off. And I basically told them that afterwards. I said, dude, I'm not doing it again. You know, if you ask me to do it again, I will go out there and I will break your guitar. So it's like I can only imagine as a musician if some, you know, feedback happens and it just, you know, like maybe like the first time you were on stage and it's like it was like the worst and experience at the time, but now, you know, I look back at it, it was kind of funny. I could only imagine what people in the audience were thinking. Why is this guy up there doing that? And I'm glad after the show, I think maybe everybody was too drunk to even recognize me. So,
well, you probably got away with it.
Yeah.
There's a few nights when I just generally want to melt into the stage. Of course, you know, you find it. There was one particular evening for me with Luke and another lineup of the Tangent that only had Luke in it from nowadays. But we were both in Canada playing, and some guys on the plane had bust my keyboards by throwing them about. And we got on stage, and you know, there's a big audience out there, a lovely festival, really nice people. I walked on stage. I was able to say a full good evening to them all in French, which they absolutely loved. It brought the house down. We were ready for the greatest gig of our lives, and the keyboards didn't work, and that was it. You know, the band had to jam, and basically, I was so upset by that I actually ended up being physically sick off the stage. You know, I just had to go behind stage and be sick. I was so upset. I just realized I've come all this way for this one gig, and I can't even play this gig. And because some guys decided to, you know, Luke actually spotted them throwing my keyboards in the air from the aeroplane. And
Yeah.
and when he went and told the flight stewardess that those guys are throwing Andy's instruments around in the air, he was told to sit down, you know, and they were allowed to carry on throwing our instruments about. And you know, that moment when you're on the stage and you're captured and you cannot get off the stage and you can't do anything about the situation that's happening. It's happened to all of us, of course. Every single one of us has had a terrible, terrible, terrible experience on stage. And, you know, you just don't know, you know, you just watch your whole career spinning away from you. And of course, it's not doing. But, you know, you care so much about what you're going to give to these people that, you know, it's a tragedy that you can't do what you're there to do.
Yeah, it was a real shame that we couldn't perform our usual set at that time because it was a great set. But yeah, it was just mad because I think we started playing The World That We Drive Through, and then parts of the previous DVD were coming out through the speakers at the side of the stage. I was like, what the fuck's going on here? It was so mental. There's like parts of the DVD were coming out like backwards and in reverse and different voices. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then Andy was just like in a ball of like mad red hair going on. It was crazy. Like unplugging things and plugging things back in. I just want to get a fucking organ going, but I can't even get that going. Doing all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh no, what a nightmare. So we just ended up jamming, but there's only so much you can jam at a stage like that until the audience is like, right, we want to hear some tangent music now. But there's an Alan Partridge sketch. Alan Partridge is a comedian over here in England, and it's where he hits the keyboards and stuff's coming out left, right, and centre that he doesn't want to come out. And I just said to the drummer Tony at the time, I went, it's like Alan Partridge, isn't it? And he just knew exactly what I meant. And just started eating his own towel and just going like, oh my God. And the next minute, Andy runs straight past us and like was just sick in the car park or something. I was like, oh my God. But the crowd were really appreciative afterwards. They all came out to the car park, didn't they? And they were like, oh man, great jam. It's such a shame we couldn't hear the full set, but what we heard was fantastic, man. Doing all this.
It was just great with the Canadians, weren't they? Yeah.
It was mental.
And of course, that was the night we lost the drummer, and we've got no idea where he went, and who he was with, and it will remain a mystery for the rest of our lives.
We've got little fragments of it over the years, and I think now we can build up a pretty big picture of what happened.
You'll have to tell me that at some point.
I'll tell you another time. Yeah,
yeah, maybe he's watching. I don't think so. Yeah.
Hold on a second. What? Yeah.
Hey, the guy from the garage, you want to call back?
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Is our time up or something?
Oh, no. She was, I'm going to call someone back later. What, I mean, of all the, the prog fests that I went to in California, I always wondered, some of the bands that just come from one off, what would have happened, coming from such far distances, England, somewhere in Sweden, some of the bands came, like Flower Kings, Anecdoten, and there's a few other ones that that guy Greg Walker used to bring over, and just for the one time, and I could, like you're saying with your keyboards, what would have happened if these guys' keyboards or their guitars were busted on the plane? What would they do? And
Yeah.
I think luckily, what was it, Greg Walker? He had a contingency plan where he was going everywhere in the United States looking for Mellotrons, any kind of keyboards, and it was like people were borrowing other people's instruments, and so it was really interesting. And
Yeah,
that's when I first.
it gets me thinking about episode like when because we had a trio project 2014 or something, 15 maybe, called Barracuda Triangle. It was me, Thomas Bodin from the Flower Kings, and Felix Lehmann, the drummer. A trio band, and we were contracted to play Cruise to the Edge. All cool, we said, yeah, cool, yeah, of course we do that. But Thomas' role in the whole thing was so important. He had like tons of those keyboards, things and settings, and he's quite extreme in his setup when it comes to have different sounds and all that. So it's extremely important that he gets his keyboards really on the cruise. We cannot borrow a DX7 and think we can do the set. No way, it's impossible. So and I bought the tickets for the band because I kind of organized the whole thing. and we were up in Stockholm rehearsing, and then we were about to fly out to the cruise, land in Miami. But we had a layover in Vienna, Austria. And it, you know, I bought the ticket, it was cheap, yeah, great. I have those three tickets for the guys, me included. And then later on, I looked at the itinerary, like, it's only 35 minutes, you know, from Stockholm, Vienna, 35 minutes changeover to go to the next plane, the transatlantic flight. And then I started thinking, because I played many years, 35 minutes? Will they make the gear going on that flight, really? I think it's like 50-50. I knew Vienna airport is not so big. Normally it takes 20 minutes, but just one little fuck up and the gear goes like 2 days later. And the cruise is sailing, and you know, of course. So I called the airline company. Yeah, I happened to notice it's only like a 35 minutes change at Vienna airport. And you know, I would like some kind of guarantee that all the gear going from Stockholm actually going on the airplane to Miami. Can you give me 100% confirmation that that will happen? Yeah, of course. The baggage always travel with a traveler and blah 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 like that. Yeah, all right, okay. So
We know where this is going.
Yeah, I don't really believe you, you know, because I've been in that situation before, and it's not always traveling with a passenger, you know. I'm waiting for a bag 48 hours in Atlanta, and it was snowstorm, and I only had a T-shirt. All right, are you sure? Yeah, of course we can guarantee that. What's your name? You know. So when we got to Vienna, yeah, of course we had to run to the next flight, and I stood up where the last counter is before you actually get into at the gate. You know, right up at the gate, looking down at the runway for the airplanes, and like, oh, 5 minutes before the flight was taking off, and sir, you have to go on the airplane now. No, I'm not going on the airplane. I want that car. I want to see that they load those bags there. I can see the bag. It has to be in the plane before I get in the plane, because that's my bag.
Yeah.
Oh, sir, you really have to go on the plane. No, I will not go on the plane before they, you know, pack those bags into that plane. So that's what I did. I stood there and physically watched them loading the bags. All right, cool. The bags are on the plane. Okay, now I get. But they almost called security. So that's what you have to do sometimes.
Take matters into your own hands.
What?
Take matters into your own hands.
Yeah. I was extremely obnoxious and annoying for them. But, you know, I wanted to see those bags, those flight cases. I could see the flight cases, you know, standing there. Oh, there's the keyboard. They have to go into the plane. I'm going on the plane before they go.
That's what you're paying for.
Yeah. It's not rocket science. You know, I pay for a ticket plus luggage, you know. Of course, they should travel together, but, you know, you heard that before. Yeah. I was stranded in Atlanta for 48 hours, as I said. Like, I had only a T-shirt, and it was snowstorm. Yeah, the only time there was a snowstorm in the last 50 years in Atlanta, but I managed to catch that one. It was 2014, January. It was cold. I had nothing. I had a T-shirt, and it was like yeah, minus degrees outside. Yeah.
I've had that happen where we had to get from one end of the airport to the other and in 20 minutes. And there was no way for me because I use a cane, so I can't go that fast. They got me a wheelchair, and my girlfriend's in a wheelchair, so they're speeding us over there. and we missed the flight, so we had to stay at some airport in New Jersey. And luckily, McDonald's was open 24 hours, so you know, if we wanted something to eat, but laying down on those hard plastic airport chairs, you know, you can't sleep. There's absolutely, I don't know how anybody can sleep on
Yeah, it's easy. You go to tax free and get a bottle of JD, and then you chug it and you sleep like a child.
Can I just say at this point, we've been now talking for 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is longer than Ben-Hur.
No, that's 2 hours 45. That's over 3 hours. 3 hours 10 minutes. Ben-Hur.
Right. Oh, right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Well, okay. We've
I saw
we're
that
two
movie,
thirds-
and it was even a 20 minutes break.
So I
Yeah.
was wondering. I mean, like, if anybody was wanting to watch Ben-Hur, they might be able to catch the last hour if we went off very soon. I don't know, but I'm getting requests to do other things at the moment. So
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Maybe
are
we
we?
should wrap it up.
we could wrap it up now. Yeah.
I mean, like, I think
got a lot of-
probably people have had enough of listening to us talk, but I want to say it's just been really great. I don't know where the 2 hours and 10 minutes went, actually. It was just lovely to be with everybody. And, you know, thank you for making it happen, Rob.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's been really good.
I'm glad you guys took the time out to do it. You know, I really appreciate that.
There comes a time when we heed a certain code, and a life must come together as one. There are people dying, no, and so we all must help a lending hand. Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Come with me.
Before it goes too embarrassing. Back for the radio. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys again very much, and I really do appreciate it. I look forward to all your stuff that's coming out, Luke and Andy and Jonas. You know, I really do look forward to that, and you know, I'll put all your links down below, as they say in YouTube land, and this will be up for rebroadcast in less than an hour, within the hour. Anyone that missed anything, they can check it out that way.
Was anybody watching?
It fluctuated from, I think the high point we had double digit, and now we're down to
Whoa! Okay. Well, thank you to anybody who's watched the whole of this. I mean, you know, yeah. I mean, you must seriously like Rob.
I paid
Right.
So guys, nice meeting everybody again. And
Yeah. Lovely to see you, Jonas. Lovely to see you, Luke. Lovely to see you, Steve. And lovely to see
Yeah.
you, Ron. Okay.
Great to see you all again.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah,
I'll
nice,
let
one. Nice one.
Talk to you guys soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you going to press the button and take us off air? Then we can say good night properly
Yes, I
and
am.
swear at each other. Okay.
It will
All
be
right.
great.
bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.